The following is a presentation of ESPN on ABC.
St. Petersburg, the booming city on Florida's Gulf Coast, where again this year downtown city streets have become a racetrack. Welcome to the Firestone Grand Prix, the season opener for the Verizon IndyCar Series. The lead story this year in IndyCar racing is the debut of a new generation car, 2 years in the making. Fans, drivers, everyone's excited to see what it can do on the racetrack. What's different this year? Jan Bikas explains.
Well, Alan, of course, it has a cool, new, sleek, and aggressive look to the car, but it's also been designed to race better. So on the top side, you're sleek, but underneath, it's designed to produce more downforce. Now, when they have slipstreamed the top, you can see these rear wing, and all the wing surfaces are less. The idea? Less turbulence so that drivers can follow closer together. But for Will Power today and company, with all the reduced wings, he will have about 1,000 pounds less downforce to help him in the corners. They say they have to grab a hold of the wheel, it raises your heart rate, and they definitely have to raise their game, Alan.
Gonna be a lot of fun. Thanks, Jan. Alan Bestwick with Eddie Cheever and Scott Goodyear. Glad you're with us. So all the talk about the car. What are we going to see for the season and for the race?
Well, Alan, these sleek little missiles, as we're calling them now, are really different to drive. Before, as Jan said, a lot of downforce, and now we're back to our era, Eddie, where not so much grip on the racetrack. So, in the braking zones, a little bit more difficult to handle. Trying to get through the turns, not as much grip. Trying to put the power down with all that horsepower, the tires are spinning. So the drivers today are working a lot harder, as Jan mentioned. But for us, I think, Eddie, it's going to be an exciting race because all the drivers are going, we don't know what we got.
I'm going to distill to what you said down to one word: chaos. Lots of chaos. You have really talented rookies that want to beat the old season pros. You have new cars. You have the first race of the season. When you put all that together, it is going to be incredibly exciting. I have no idea what is going to happen in this race.
Well, what we've seen over the course of the weekend in practice and qualifying was chaos. A lot of guys struggling to find the limits of this car.
And a lot of the senior guys that you think would not make a mistake right there, 14 of Tony Kanaan, the veterans were having issues on the racetrack. Getting to know all these brand new cars as we ride along with everybody, including some of the rookies, it is right now, look at this, watch this, slipping around with Graham Rahal, trying to put the power down, which is what I talked about before. Brakes are locking up, Jordan King, a rookie, going into the tire barrier. We might see some of that here today.
But it was really entertaining.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We have no idea what's going to happen. One thing to throw a wrinkle into, a rookie on the pole. Robert Wickens making his first IndyCar start. More on that coming up from Pit Road in just a minute. First, at the head of the grid, three-time Indy 500 winner and three-time St. Pete winner, Helio Castroneves, to give the command.
St. Petersburg race fans, are you ready? It's time for those most famous words in all of sports. Here to give the command, please welcome today's Grand Marshal, three-time Firestone Grand Prix winner and three-time Indianapolis 500 champion, Helio Castroneves.
Woo! All right, drivers of the 2018 Verizon IndyCar Series, start your engine!
That it doesn't look like.
All right, if that doesn't get you ready to go, what will? Been talking about it for 6 months, about this opening race of 2018, the green flag, just 3 pace laps away.
The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg is brought to you by Firestone. Whatever you drive a Firestone.
Cars on the course at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, 2 pace laps away from the green flag. A look at the Honda 2-seater now, driven by the legendary Mario Andretti. To see more Honda racing content, go to hondaracing.com. Last year's champion Josef Newgarden carries our Verizon onboard camera today. Josef takes us for a tour around the course now with our track map, brought to you by Mother's Polish.
Hey guys, Josef Newgarden here. Going to give you a lap around the Grand Prix of St. Pete. Starts off with the front stretch. Pretty fast this year. Car's got a lot less drag. Big brake zone into T1. It's going to be the best place for us to try and pass. Down into second gear. Trying to set up and get the throttle in T2 here. this fast right-hander in 3. It's pretty tough this year. I think you have to lift there. Big straightaway, a big breakthrough going into T4. Probably the second less place to pass this year is right through there. Second gear through this tight complex, 5, 6, 7, trying to get the throttle. The 8, 9 gets a little slippery. It's normally pretty shaded over here. Then power down into 9 is pretty tough. Might be able to get a pass down here if someone messes up out of 9. Try to get the power down out of T10 there. Set up for this flat out chicane at 11, 12. Try to get big on the brakes into 13, 14. This corner is really important to get power down. Try and get a good run on the front stretch. That's a lap.
Man, this racing thing doesn't work out. Josef's got a future as a tour guide for sure. That was fun. That's the challenge facing the drivers today. Graham Rahal's got a huge challenge. A problem in qualifying. He starts at the back of the field to look at Graham from our United Rentals onboard camera. And a thought from pit road and Jan.
And yes, he was so frustrated, Alan. He says he cannot remember a time in his career that he started a race last and said, I simply used too much power. I spun the car starting last today, but it's not unfamiliar territory. Here in 2008, he was shuffled to the back of the pack during the race. And amazingly, he stormed his way through and got his first career victory. So it is possible. Rick?
Get back to Rick in a second. Marco Andretti had a penalty for qualifying interference. He's deep in the pack today with our AutoNation on board. Ed Jones in his first ride for the Ganassi team today, carrying the NTT data camera. Zach Veach, one of the 7 rookies in the field, driving for Andretti Autosport in the Group 1001 on board. Indy 500 winner Alexander Rossi's got an AutoNation camera and a very good race car for today. There's former St. Pete winner James Hinchcliffe with a Lucas Oil on board. Will Power, 2-time winner here, has our Verizon onboard camera from the front row. And Ryan Hunter-Reay, former Indy 500 winner and series champs, got an AutoNation on board. His outside front tire changer, Dave Sharpley, is also carrying an over-the-wall camera for us today. He'll be standing between that race car and the wall as it comes in at 50 miles an hour. Should be an interesting view. Front of the field story from Rick.
Well, if you're looking for a sign of the changing of the guard, look no further than this grid. There are 7 rookies, and as a result of qualifying in that wet and wild condition, 3 are in the first 6 positions. One of them a Canadian on the pole, Robert Wickens, but he's not your standard rookie. In fact, he's 28 years old. He's a veteran of the German Touring Car Series, and he's about to learn a major lesson in his life. Alan?
Wickens and Will Power on the front row, 24 cars in the field. Coming around the final corner, down to the start, turn 1, lap 1, how will it be? Ready for the start of the IndyCar Series season, and we're going green in St. Pete. Oh, trouble! Around in turn 2. Will Power. And he keeps going. But what did he damage on that machine?
How did he get sideways there? That was almost just a straight between 2 corners.
Well,
maybe somebody touched him from behind.
No, I think actually with Wickens and Power going through there side by side through 2 and 3, probably Will just ran out of room, but give Robert Wickens a big nod up because he just ended up starting beside a guy that's been 187 starts in Indy cars with 32 wins.
More trouble. That's Tony Kanaan around. And you saw Ryan Hunter-Reay on pit road. He dove for the pit lane as the field took the green.
He's looking desperately for reverse.
Car still running. You can tell because the numeral on the digital readout is still there, and you can hear it. All right, Hunter-Reay leaving pit road. Jan?
If I start finish now, you're going to beat him around.
Yes, you can hear the radio communication. Ryan Hunter-Reay said the car would not accelerate. They made a quick pit stop to change the ECU, or engine control unit. The good news, as you heard on the radio, it looks like he is going to beat the leaders out, and at this point has not lost a lap.
Oh, that was awkward for Kanaan.
And an eventful first lap for sure. Yet no caution flag.
And 2 veterans with an issue on the first laps, something we really expected out of the rookies, guys.
Have you seen the gap that he's put on the second place car?
Well, everybody had to check up for Power spinning in front of him, right?
Now he has nothing to worry about other than the track. There's nobody attacking him.
All right, what happened to Will Power in that first series of corners?
Oh,
Hey, that looked like it just happened back.
Oh, yeah.
Rear wing.
And by himself, just trying to get back on the power. We saw that.
This should tell us.
Yeah. Do they touch? No. I mean, give Will Power credit. He did not want to rub against Robert Wickens.
And Charlie Kimball is off. He is stalled. That is in turn 13 and 14. Kimball driving for the new Carlin racing team in the series.
And you stalled out.
And there you see where he is on the track, the last corner before pit entry.
And I think they said his engine is stalled. That's a bad place to be, because if you have any brake trouble, that's where the car naturally ends up.
Did somebody here say something about chaos? Caution out. Kimball's car stopped and stalled in a spot that is a dangerous place on the racetrack. So first full course yellow of the race coming out on the third lap for Charlie Kimball in turn 13.
And that is exactly right. Turn 13, you come through that 11-12 chicane, getting up to about 155 miles an hour, braking down into turn 13 and 14 where his car is sitting. So well, you can see that Charlie was up over the curb, Eddie, so probably just a little problem under braking, as we talked about, because these cars don't have as much grip as they did before, and cold tires.
We got to bring that camera back a little bit to see where that started. Look at Kanaan trying to get back in. There's no room, and he gets spun around.
Zach Veach lost a piece of his front wing, it looked like, in that squeeze.
And we heard Tony on the radio. He was not very happy with that, that's for sure. And you had mentioned a great start by Robert Wickens. Here's a guy that was on the fast track towards Formula One and had an opportunity to go test with a Mercedes DTM team, and was noticed by a guy by the name of Toto Wolff, and had the opportunity to go and test a DTM car. And when he did that, he got onto the Formula One track program, as they call it, and just never got into a car itself besides the test, and didn't have an opportunity to get involved in Formula One, but certainly a guy capable of racing single-seater cars, as we see here.
Quick reminder, if you're looking for the Spanish language commentary today, activate the SAP button on your television, presented by ESPN Deportes. So, chaos, mayhem, favorites with early trouble.
And we have another restart.
And just the first couple of laps of this race. Sebastian Bourdais, last year's winner, has made a pit stop. You see him just rejoining the tail end of the field. He apparently had a puncture, a flat tire, no doubt in some contact in those first couple of laps shuffle.
Let's talk about the car for a second. They've lost a lot of downforce. They're not as easy to drive as they had before. So every time they're racing somebody, you have to go over the limit to get by them or to defend yourself. And when you do that, you're in a zone where you don't know how the car is going to handle. I think this might be the first time many of these drivers are driving with a full tank of fuel, Scott.
Well, and they do certainly have their warm-up right now, as we see Will Power coming to pit lane. And Rick, you got some more on the 12?
Yeah, in fact, they were talking to him, Roger Penske, now in his ear, now that Elio's not in this. They asked if the tires are good, we'd like you to stay out. And he came back on the radio and said, they're not, I need to come in. So the primary goal here is just to come in, get tires, make sure everything's okay. They're double-checking the rear wing as well. Looks like they may take that off as well. Jan?
And Ryan Hunter-Reay has come back onto pit road. And the good news is that was only a 3.7-second stop, because they had to only top off with fuel. It sounds like the car is clean now, and what they were hoping for is a full course caution, and he got it on the lead lap. Alan?
Thinking back, a year ago, Hunter-Reay went to pit road as the race started and came back to actually get into the top 5 at one point in the race. Turn 2, lap 1. Front row starter Will Power in trouble in St. Pete. How about that restart in our ABC side-by-side coverage? Scott Dixon pulled out 4 wide. Somehow everybody cycled back in line. And a new leader up at the front of the pack. Another one of the young drivers, Jordan King, 24 years old, from Warwick, England, in his first IndyCar Series start.
And the first 3 cars are rookies, with Rossi being the Indy 500 champion in 4th.
There's a look at Jordan, one of those drivers, former 2013 British Formula 3 champion, a race winner in Formula 2, was looking for something, what his next career step was, not finding anything attractive to pursue in Formula 1. He's had his eye on IndyCar for a while. He said he wanted to drive something that excites him And this did more than any European option, and he said, I'm not here for a year, I'm here for a career.
That's definitely a career choice. But you have to make that conscious decision if you're coming to the States to run. Otherwise, you can spend 3 or 4 years waiting for an opening in Formula One. It might never come.
Alexander Rossi up to third. Blue and yellow car. Sorry, Scott.
Yeah, and that all started from back in turns 13 and 14. Good power down. Had a good drive off the turn. Oh,
trouble.
Contact.
Couple of cars around. Is that Graham Rahal, I believe? Or is that Sato?
No, that's...
Check that. That, on the other side, is Spencer Pigot in the 21. He's stalled.
He was out of control before he got to the apex of the corner.
Yeah, when you come diving into the turn like that on the painted tarmac, it just has no grip, and they lost the back end of the car, and around he went. And unfortunately for Spencer Pigot, who's not had a great weekend, he's been super fast. His teammate right now is leading this race. He should have qualified in the top 6, got held up in qualifying. He has just not had one of those things, what you call, Eddie, a lucky weekend.
He better get that thing started or he's going to go a lap down. No, full course yellow.
Yeah, Spencer Pigot stalled down there in front of the concrete barrier outside of turn 1. No place to go. Unsafe spot for the car. Got to put the yellow out.
Anytime you have a car like we did just with Charlie Kimball at the end of a long straightaway, perfect thought by race control to make sure that you don't put those guys in jeopardy.
All right, restarted. Away he goes. But the field will be gathered up again. Orlando, Florida native Spencer Pigot with a full season ride for Ed Carpenter Racing this year. One of many changes on the grid from when we last saw the series in action at the Sonoma season finale. So Jordan King out in front in his first ever IndyCar start. Robert Wickens runs second in his first ever IndyCar start. And Alexander Rossi followed by Matheus Leist, 19 years old, driving for AJ Foyt, youngster out of Brazil. Got a big smile, big mop of hair on his head. Not a scrap of body fat on him. But when you hear AJ Foyt say to you, this kid's fast.
And I have to add something to that. He won the 2016 British Formula 3 Championship, what happened to be won also by a certain Ayrton Senna. Wow. So I'm not saying it's Senna, but I'm saying he started off in the right position here. Yep. And he's been very quick.
Yep. Well, and Tony says that he's fearless, and he said he's going to be very quick. Would not be surprised if he wins a race this year, and that was before qualifying.
Well, we'll see. And we're...
All right, so field gathered up behind the pace car for a second time in this race. Pit road open here. Don't know if we'll see any takers at the back, but you'll see it in our side-by-side coverage. Yellow flag, number 2 at St. Pete. Graham Rahal leaving the pit lane. There's Zach Veach getting that front wing repaired after the contact he had with Tony Kanaan earlier. If you forgot to set your clock forward last night and you missed the last 30 minutes or so here, sorry, you missed a lot.
You couldn't write this.
But we'll catch you up on it here in just a little while.
Alan, you've got to think at some point, Alan, this thing's going to slow down.
All right, so one more lap under caution before we see the restart. So we will take a break here and come back for the green flag and see what else happens down in turn 1. Last time by, just after the green flag waved, little more chaos. Some folks that started in the back trying to get aggressive, and it didn't quite work out. Another restart charge down into turn 1. Dixon in the orange and blue car squeezing through for some spots. The leader goes wide, and a change up front. Wickens back out front after Jordan King overshot the corner. Now the fight for second. Rossi and King. Rossi slides and keeps it off the wall. We have a guest analyst in the booth. He'll jump in anytime he feels ready. See if you can guess the voice, and then I'll introduce him.
What a great race. Oh, my God. I'm holding my seat here. I wish I would be there, but it's okay. What a great race here in St. Petersburg. As everybody already mentioned, nobody knows much about those cars. Everybody understanding every lap goes by. And it's been a lot of action. It's unbelievable.
3-time Indy 500 champion, 3-time St. Petersburg race winner, more than anybody else, Helio Castroneves. Grand Marshal for today's race. Nice touch with the fence
You like
climb.
that was good, huh?
Very robust command to start engines. We appreciate that very much. I know you'd like to be out there. Your career's in a different direction, but we will see you at Indy.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is great.
I'll be back, no problem. So the fans were out there. I'm still coming back, and obviously the Indy GP and Indy 500. And I'm still racing. A lot of people think I'm retired. I did not retire. I still race in IMSA, which is sports car, and it's a lot of fun, different. And but I tell you what, this is a lot of action because in IMSA, you're actually passing a lot of cars, different cars, but here it's everybody very equal, special now with this new car. I did not have the opportunity yet to drive a new car, so I'm really looking forward to that.
But I'll bet you're eyeball deep in paying attention to the debriefs and the engineering and all that, because you are going to get in here in a little over a month, about 2 months' time. What are your teammates telling you about how different they're finding this car in actual racing now?
They are telling me that obviously there is much less downforce compared to last year. The approaching speed is about 7 to 9 miles an hour faster. So that means the braking point, it's almost the same, but without the grip level that you have last year on the corner. So everyone is really intrigued and not knowing much about how long the tire is going to last. Looks like Ross is going to make a move here for the second place. And he did on the outside. Great job.
Jordan King gives way. Rossi up to the second position. So trying to figure things out, right? Everybody's been talking about tire degradation and speed fall off over the course of a run. If you're calling the strategy today, how's that going to play out? Are you going to go to the full end of a fuel window, or do you think you're going to need to stop earlier?
Well, with the yellows that already happened, and I missed most of it because I was coming over here. But I believe a lot of people saying that lasts about 6 to 10 laps, which means you got to change the tires right away. So you don't want to waste long. But at this point, it changed the whole complex. Obviously, now you're going to have more fuel towards the end, so people start thinking about blacks. During the practice, by the way, black tires seems to be better in the long run, and I want to see who is going to take a chance in this moment. But we only 13 laps at the moment, so it's interesting to see the dynamic when it's going to happen. But I tell you what, man, it's excited to be around here for sure.
Eddie and Scott, your mics are still open. You can join the conversation.
I would never want to interrupt a 3-time Indianapolis 500, the only man on the planet that could win it 4 times in a row.
We're going to make it happen, Eddie. No worries. We're going to make it happen this year. But this is a very fast pace. As you can see, those guys are flying on the straightaway. So it's going to be interesting. Most of the guys are with the reds because I believe they know the blacks are much better towards the end of the race.
And you said you've not had a chance to drive these cars, but it's sort of like the early era that you started to get into it, that both Eddie and I drove, and we talked about that at the beginning of the show. Slipperier car, faster down the straightaway, and having the opportunity to really turn around and race guys because it's slipping and sliding underneath you. I mean, it's just more fun, isn't it?
Absolutely, Scott. In fact, I was talking to Tony, and he said, listen, it's just like changing the chip from 2018 to 2010, so you gotta, some places that you used to go flat out, now you go flat out qualifying, but you don't go flat out all the time or on the race pace. So it will be a little bit of a time changing. Everybody gonna adapt. Obviously, this race right now with the paint job at the racetrack, some people adapt a little bit faster than the others. But at this point, it's interesting to see who is going to be the clever one. Look like they're opening a big gap here. And Lace, I think Mateus is...
Lace has a problem. Mateus Lace off the pace, and look at the jam up that created behind him as he got out of the way.
He's been doing such a good job this weekend, putting right there.
What do you know about him?
Emergency mode and you can flip it.
Sounds like an electronics problem.
Same situation that Ryan Hunter-Reay sounded like he had at the very beginning of the show. And such a defeating feeling for a driver because you're trying to get that thing reset. And in the end result, we're getting a report that maybe he's stuck in third gear.
And guys, those are really frustrating for a driver when you don't know what to do. They're telling you situations. I'm actually facing right now in the sports car. There were so many buttons that I'm still trying to figure out what to do. So it's a shame. I believe he got to go to the pit right now and figure it out sooner than later.
He will stay driver's right as he comes out and head to the pit lane.
Guys, new tires.
So the AJ Foyt Racing team with some diagnosis to do, and we'll follow up on that in just a minute. Stuck in fourth, I think he just said.
Do you have a dash or nothing? I don't have clutch, not even gear.
Summed up in 2 words, not good. All right, commercial break here, and more from St. Petersburg in a minute. What a wild start. Robert Wickens is your leader again. We're back after this message and a word from your ABC station. Beautiful look at St. Petersburg, where the Verizon IndyCar Series opens today on ABC. Upcoming, the IndyCar Grand Prix on the road course at the Speedway, May 12th, late in the afternoon. The weekend of qualification with bumping this year. Sounds like going to have about 36 cars entered in the 500. And then the 102nd Indianapolis 500, our telecast presented by Firestone. Memorial Day weekend, 11 a.m. here on ABC. Helio Castroneves will be trying to win a 4th Indianapolis 500-mile race in that one. He'll be in the Grand Prix race as well. He joins Eddie Scott and myself now. We're beginning to start to see some pit stops. Will Power was just in a moment ago. And here is Marco Andretti on.
Yes, and for Marco Andretti, and we've seen a few other on pit lane, this is protecting yourself. Interesting, it looks like they're going with the red sidewalls. That was a long stop for the fuel. Looked like it didn't get engaged quite as smoothly as they would like. This is, again, protecting the tires and hoping for a caution to leapfrog yourself to the front.
Marco, again, had a penalty in qualifying for qualifying interference, and that's why he started back in 18th place instead of up the front. So, Robert Wickens is the leader. Alexander Rostia, about 1.5 seconds behind him. Jordan King's third. Takuma Sato is fourth in that 30 car, driving for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing this year, with James Hinchcliffe carrying our visor cam and pursuing him in 5th place.
And you ride along here and you see how narrow this racetrack is. It's now coming to 28, coming in with Ryan Hunter-Reay.
And Scott, I really think this is a situation where Ryan Hunter-Reay, we know he went to the back, and what a great look here to watch how it takes place from the chief mechanic up front. Get those tire change, and it looks like he was beat out from behind. That was Ed Jones, of course, now driving in the colors we used to be familiar with Tony Kanaan, now with the Ganassi team. And again, this strategy here, you might as well go for 4 stops with fresh tires and race with people who are thinking about stopping only 3 times.
Dave Sharpley carrying our over-the-wall camera today. You saw his car to his inside and a car passing him to his outside. Those are tight quarters with speeding race cars going all around you. 4-stop strategy. Our guest Helio Castroneves said,
exactly. I'm like, wow, last year I think 2 years were 3 stops, and it just showed that the Firestone tires are, the red ones are degraded a little bit more because we don't have as much downforce now. Josef Newgarden is coming in to his first pit stop.
Yep. Started back in 13th, had some struggles in qualifying. Last year's champion carrying the number 1.
Yeah, some drivers have chosen not to do it, but Simon Pagenaud wanted the number 1, and so did Josef Newgarden. Josef Newgarden got caught out in qualifying yesterday, did not make the top 12. He said both he needed to do something and the team needed to do something. But going in after this morning's warm-up, he said he felt pretty good about this car. Nice touch there with your teammates all carrying the tribute, Helio, across the top of the visor.
That was very nice. I have no idea, and I'm sure this is a touch from Tim Cindric and Roger. That was sweet. I was kind of like touched by it.
Alexander Rossi reeling in Robert Wickens. Rossi in 2nd place. He's looked really strong. He and Hunter-Reay looked strong. Hunter-Reay pitting as the field came to green, but Rossi running in 2nd right now.
When we talk about Robert Wickens, Helio, you think about him coming out of a sedan car with a DTM. You've gone from IndyCar to the sports car. A bit of a difference, obviously. Still a lot of ground effects in those cars. Just think about what's happening with Robert Wickens now. Jan?
And a bit of a change. We see James Hinchcliffe is going with the black sidewall Firestones, known as the primary. We keep an eye on Scott Dixon as well. Rick?
Scott Dixon came in just then. Nice quick stop. No problems with Scott. This morning I talked to him before he got into the car after the warm-up, and he said still coming to grips with it, but he's starting to feel better about it. Now he's got some laps under his belt, and we know he's the master of fuel saving. But look, under those cold tires, looks like someone was making a move behind him. Al?
Hi, Rick. Thanks. So waiting on the leaders there to make their first pit stops, and a little bit of traffic beginning to bunch up after some people are cycling around on different tire strategies and different length pit stops. There's Will Power remember, started on the front row, spun in the second corner of the first lap, has made another pit stop as Andretti comes to the inside of Hinchcliffe. Hinchcliffe struggling on those cold tires just off the pit lane.
My teammates were saying that about 3 laps, around 3 laps to get the temperature, so it's a little bit tough right now with lack of downforce.
Simon Pagenaud in, Rick.
Simon Pagenaud was the only driver I talked to after the morning warm-up who smiled and said, I think the car is just fine, but wait a minute, they've got a problem down there. Looks like the car is stalled. This is not going to be a routine pit stop by any stretch of the imagination. They get him restarted and back out, but not the kind of pit stop he wanted, especially considering he feels he had a very racy car.
That's tough.
Yeah, I did speak with him right after the warm-up, and he said, man, my car is really consistent on the black tires, and that's not the way Penske want to start right now.
Alexander Rossi pits from second place. Jan?
Yes, and one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. He's been on the radio, said, I'm losing the rears, meaning when he accelerates off the corners, he's starting to burn off those rear tires. They also decide to go with the primary tires, and fairly early. That's 7.1 second stop for Alexander Rossi. A lot of strategy being played early right now. Get tires fresh and keep your speed up.
So when will we see this car on pit lane? Robert Wickens from the race lead. I gotta think soon. With all the people closely pursuing him having stopped.
Not that closely pursuing him. He's a 6.9.
Well, they were until they stopped. Come on.
He's in a category of his own right now.
Yeah.
But who's really fast right now is Marco with new tires, doing a 61.9. The leader's doing a 30.63.
You see those busy hands in that corner?
Pit this lap, use overtake, please confirm. Copy.
Wow, look at that lead. Big lead for Wickens. Here is Jordan King pitting from second place, Jan.
And Jordan King, of course, had an opportunity to lead today at one portion. Remember, part of the qualifications were because of conditions, but in the same conditions, he actually broke the track record in qualifying, showing a lot of speed. Another car with a quick pit stop, going with those black sidewall primaries.
So here comes Wickens down to turn number 10. And just a couple of more corners before he'll make the right turn onto the pit lane for his first stop of the race. We'll watch there, back to see how some of the others, like Rossi, who just pitted, play out in the exchange.
And he does have experience with pit stops, so this is not a brand new experience for him.
Here he comes.
Nice, easy run into the box. Let's hit the box for the boys. This is going to be fuel and tires.
Robert Wickens learned how to qualify, learned how to lead. Now he's learning how to do an IndyCar pit stop. That's what he's new at. So far, things have gone fine. He was working on fuel saving, but just before he came in, they told him on that lap, use the push to pass, use the overtake, burn it as much as you want, go as fast as you can, with the idea being that his in-lap hopefully would be fast enough to keep him ahead of Rossi when he goes back out.
And there goes Rossi. Wickens to the pit exit. That was close.
But Rossi has hot tires on and he doesn't, so he's got to drive really defensively for the next 2 laps.
But he's got 3 cars between himself and Rossi as a cushion.
And this section of the racetrack is very difficult to pass in here, so he'll be able to hold everybody behind him.
Sebastian Bourdais cycles up to the lead on an off strategy after an earlier flat tire. There is the race for the lead in the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Hometowner Sebastian Bourdais in that neon yellow and black number 18, being chased by Spencer Pigot. Both drivers had trouble earlier. Punctured tire for Bourdais, cycled him to the back. Pigot stalled after contact from Graham Rahal. That can't be good for a race car.
What is that?
Yeah, that's pieces of carbon fiber, obviously, off of a race car. So those little pieces stay on the racetrack and can actually cut a tire. So that's what all the drivers certainly need to know with the alert of that flag about what's on the race course.
Look at this, down to the inside, Will Power. Surprise, Ed Jones, somebody's coming through.
And who's on the outside? 2 by 2. Penske, don't hit each other. Teammate rules.
I know. Ooh.
Oh, trouble laced.
he was having issue.
Yeah, and we were just saying in the break, weren't we, that when you're a rookie, you get anxious because now you're expecting to do well, and all of a sudden the car's having problems. You're in the pit lane, you want to do so much more and try to overdrive it, and this is the result.
Yeah, we don't know the fact if there was a gearbox problem or certainly some ECU or electronics, and I wonder if that was the cause of the crash. But as you said, rookie, first time, but he did phenomenal. I mean, it's tough to finish the race like that, but obviously there's still a long season ahead of him.
Now his issue is coming back to speak to him.
AJ Foyt.
And we heard about Tony. Tony's always said, this guy has no filter. He's going to say how it is.
Straight from the heart. Heart to the mouth.
All right, this is the best look at it that we have been able to capture. Coming off there, that's the exit of 3, and boy, that just didn't
turn.
That's
a hard hit. Hard hit.
Ooh.
Do you think he might touch on the right
He
side?
could have caught it and shot it across the track, absolutely, possibly.
But look at the round circles of how long he was on the wall. He kept going on and off, on and off, on and off.
Yeah.
Or something broken in the car, because line looked good.
Well, that stuff we saw on the track from the lap before came from somewhere, right? So yellow flag number 3. A quick break, some pit stops in a minute. Back live, the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Easy for me to say, on a splendid, sunny Florida day. Hope it's this nice wherever you are. We're under the third caution of the race after Matheus Leist, the 19-year-old rookie from Brazil, pounded the wall exiting turn number 3. He climbed from the car, as you saw, but a lot of cleanup to be done. And you see the AMR safety team out there. Still the same IndyCar safety team, different colored uniforms, different sponsor this year, but they're out there doing their thing. We'll be a couple minutes cleaning it up. We'll come back for the restart. What's the headline for the Formula One season, Eddie? Is it Mercedes, Ferrari?
Yeah. Yes. No, it might be Ferrari, Mercedes this year, but I always have the feeling from Mercedes that they have a little bit of Deutschland horsepower in their pocket that they pull out whenever they wanted to. Last year with Hamilton, he got behind and then bang, bang, bang. Fastest in the straightaway, fastest everywhere.
You don't think Red Bull might surprise?
Yes, but I have Italian blood. I have Italian children. If I say anything but Ferrari when I go home, they won't talk to me.
Yeah. At least that's a frank admission.
I'm honest about it. What can I say?
All right, 1 to go before we restart here at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Elio Castroneves joining us for just a couple of more minutes. Talking about strategy. You asked us what the strategy is now during the commercial. Let's hear what one of your teammates has to say about it, Josef Newgarden.
That's what we're going to be doing here. We're just going to be trying to stretch. Not crazy. Like right now, the game was really, we need about a code 40 or so just to do it 2 more. But we'll see how long this caution takes and all the rest of it. I mean, we'll be aggressive. We won't go conservative here.
Okay, what's a code 4?
Yeah, okay, come on. You're
what's a
involved
code
in this.
3?
All right, I'll be honest. Cindric used codes. I wasn't with the Cindric
You have to look at me when you're saying this so I know if you're lying.
I had RP before and we didn't have codes, so it is interesting. I'm not quite sure, but I do believe sounds his voice. It's we gotta save fuel, but not gonna lose position just to save fuel. So right now they're still racing hard.
Do you have a playbook in your pocket
No,
somewhere?
I think you should go for an electoral position, like a mayor of something, because you just said something without telling us anything.
Hey, I've just said it.
The question was, what's a code for?
And they are trying to get me learn the codes in the sports car as well, and I still don't get it.
There's a lot of codes in sports cars.
Oh my goodness, you know that.
Yes, I do. You had a great run in Daytona.
It was great performance. Obviously, the result didn't show up. Oh, here we go. Let's see. We'll go green, but looking for Sebring this weekend for sure.
Absolutely. Don't forget, you can download IndyCar Mobile and get all the exclusive in-car camera views only on Verizon. Here we go with Sebastian Bourdais leading Spencer Pigot, Robert Wickens, Zach Clayman DeMello, and Alexander Rossi. Rossi with an outside move. Marco Andretti hard on the brakes to the inside of turn 1. 98 car.
Nice move for him because he really made a lot of ground coming up the stretch. Wow, look how the car steps out. Talked about cold tires and how the car doesn't have as much downforce. So many guys looking for opportunities. Oh, Dixon, pardon me, excuse me.
And Sado's
coming through.
Now Hinchcliffe on outside Dixon. They are not wasting any time.
The thing with Dixon, he always knows when to stop. Like if he gets it too wild and he thinks he's going to have an accident, he always pulls his nose out.
Experience, my friend.
I guess that's how you win championships.
Exactly.
So you said it takes 3 laps to get the tires up to temperature.
That's what they mentioned. So I will find out in 1 week and a half to driving those cars. But right now the race is going and Simon's looking right behind.
They're watching this. I think Jordan King, seems to be off the pace there just a little bit. We'll see if he stays out or comes in.
Yep, all coming
17th place.
And what I can tell you, Scott, is that he has a left front tire going down, does Jordan King. They thought about bringing him in for a pit stop during the caution, and now trouble in turn 1.
That is Dixon.
And Sato.
Yeah, didn't they just visit each other?
And is Dixon stalled? Yes, Dixon stalled. See the LED display behind the driver's head there?
Ooh,
and Sato's missing a right rear tire.
Yeah, Dixon has never had any luck here, has he? He just never seems to have the luck coming out.
That is so frustrating to be sitting there like that. I've seen you a few times with your arms in the air.
And you're pumping the end. Come on, guys.
And nobody
listens.
listens.
Out of here. Nobody listens. But they do a phenomenal job trying to get you as soon as possible.
They're the best in the world. The safety people here are the best team in the world.
And isn't it nice that they travel all the way around the world with us all the time? So if you have something outside of our home region.
Here, let's see what happened.
Yeah, not many series have that kind of a group of guys. Let's check it out.
So Dixon. Whoa.
He just couldn't slow down.
On the paint, and a veteran making that mistake. We also saw earlier in the race with Graham Rahal doing the same.
But let's explain that.
Yeah.
That paint
right
is
there.
like being on ice. You just can't stop. So he thought he was going to slow down. He didn't bump him.
No,
he ran him over.
And you just rarely see a mistake like that by Scott Dixon.
You're right. You know,
I would say never. I've never seen that.
Very rare. Very rare.
And he'll be the first guy to get out of the car at the end of the day.
And since I'm here, I can criticize now. So that's good.
Alan,
you got one more race.
True.
Yeah, you have to remember that you're going to be back in the car shortly.
It's going to bite me back.
I just want to clear up. You're talking about the paint. The front straightaway of this racetrack is an airport runway. One of the unique features that allows this course to happen the way that it does. But that paint, those are FAA markings for pilots, marking the beginning of the landing zone at the runway. Well, when you put a race car tire on that from the pavement, it's a different level of grip, and it's a lower level of grip. And that leads to...
And somehow this year, and I spoke with Josef, they didn't put some sort of abrasiveness. It's completely clear, and that's what's causing all these issues.
Can you imagine what that must have been like yesterday qualifying when there was water on that?
I did not want to be on that qualifying, to be honest.
All right, Dixon's in. Rick?
Yeah, when you were mentioning it just a moment ago, he has not had the best luck at this track. He's finished second 3 times. He's always run well, but he's never been able to pull off the victory, and it doesn't look likely to happen again. In this case, no tires. They just send him back out with a new wing.
And a bruised ego.
Yeah, frustrated.
Every time he finished second, I finished first.
There you go.
But every championship he won, I finished second. So here we go. So
then he'll be happy to hear you're going to be testing the new Indy car very shortly.
That's right. Next Tuesday, not this Tuesday, but the following, and then the open test on the Indianapolis 500 in Indianapolis on the 27th. So everybody can watch it. Everybody can be there, and all the cars going to be there. So I'm really, really excited to be back on IndyCar.
Best of luck at Sebring with Team Penske, and we look forward to seeing you back in the race car at Indianapolis.
Great to see you guys. Well done.
Elio Castroneves, 3-time Indianapolis 500 winner, the Grand Marshal at what has been an extraordinarily zany Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. We're back after this message and a word from your ABC station. Our Honda race rundown shows us a lot has happened in just 37 laps at St. Petersburg. Robert Wickens led the field to the start. He and Will Power into the second corner of lap number 1 side by side, and it did not work out for Power. The rookies, though, very impressive early in this race. Here's that incident with Power.
Trying to put the power down. He wants to get past Wickens, but on the gas too much. We talked about these cars not having as much grip. Car spins around and makes contact with the wall. With Graham Rahal here, just one of these things that we've seen along with Scott Dixon also. Just a lot of bonsai moves, as we call it. And here we come, Dixon coming hard on the inside. misjudges his speed and ends up hitting the backside of Takuma Sato.
That really wasn't a bonsai move. Under normal conditions, he would have made it. It was just too slippery. There's no rubber down there. You hit that painted strip, it's like being on ice.
Coming to the restart, Scott Dixon, penalty avoidable contact to the rear of the field. Sebastian Bourdais, last year's winner, leads the field. Big scramble already as they come up through the gears.
Marco Andretti, the fourth car in line there, just doing some nice work.
Yeah, through all that chaos, he's worked his way up to the front of the field.
That was Jack Harvey that had all the trouble getting up to speed on the start, the 60 car, another one of the rookies in the field. Michael Shank racing entry, a little wiggle from Bourdais. Does that create an opportunity from second place?
They are really tightly packed up behind him.
Wickens to the inside.
Well, you can't do it any better than that, Scott.
Yeah, textbook.
Robert Wickens back to the front.
He's a bit high, and no, he didn't. Came back in.
Look at Andretti around the outside
of his teammate. Now let's see if anybody wants to use
trouble. That is Harvey.
Line.
That's a weird place for the car to be. He hit something and came back across the track, obviously.
His right front wing is all destroyed.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he went through that chicane in 12 and 13. Ended up mounting over the curb and hitting that inside wall. We'll have to wait and see.
I think we're about to have full course yellow.
Josef Newgarden with a flat right rear tire on the pit lane. Sebastian Bourdais gives up another spot.
Yeah, Sebastian Bourdais has got tires that are just completely worn out right now. So for him, he's holding on.
Yellow.
Full course yellow. Full course yellow.
We're going to have a record here with full course yellows. This really helps Bourdais.
This really helps Newgarden, too, because he got in before the pit road was closed. We'll see if that little quick call winds up benefiting him or not.
Turning back his fuel knob right there to save some fuel when he's out to help his mileage. The new steering wheels this year, Eddie, with the new dash and everything that's on it. As Elio was saying, he's just still getting used to all the knobs and controls and codes and buttons and everything that's on these cars, and you can see the new steering wheel there by Cosworth done a very nice job, but there's a lot to retain as a driver who's trying to pilot around this narrow street with walls on both sides.
I think those steering wheels are made more for the engineers when they come in the pits than the driver, because I don't know how you'd be manipulating all that when you're driving, and you can't change anything mechanical.
Yeah. So with all the information that comes up on that, drivers have the opportunity to see everything that the engineers see inside the pit lane. So the engineers are sitting there looking at their laptop, getting to see all the parameters of the car. I think there's 80 or 100 math channels, probably more in these cars now. So all that information goes back to the engineer, and it's real time, as we call it, real time telemetry. So everything that's happening, including tire pressure, is an opportunity for the engineers to see it in pit lane and also the drivers. And we talked about tire pressure. There was a report that Jordan King actually really possibly had a tire going down, but they didn't believe the sensor on the car. And in turn, we saw in that brake going away that he contacted the wall, so the tire was indeed going down and sensor was correct.
It's a hard hit for Jack Harvey as he sits still in the car to the inside of turns 13 and 14. I suspect he hit the wall somewhere in the little chicane that's just before that and came across the track. Unfortunately, we don't have a good look at it to show you exactly what happened. But we are under the already 5th full course yellow, and we're not even halfway. Some pit, some do not. Sebastian Bourdais had not stopped since very early in the race, so he needed to come in for some fresh rubber. There's Graham Rahal leaving. Josef Newgarden back in on the pit lane as we welcome you back to the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. 5th yellow flag of the race, and we're shy of halfway. It has been chaotic.
And it keeps swinging back and forth. When you think somebody's got the right strategy, there's another yellow and has to start all over again.
Yeah.
So up till a few minutes ago, Marco Andretti was looking really good. Now he has come in for tires, and we'll see if he can redo that run again.
So Sebastian Bourdais cycles from racing for the lead back to 14th spot, Rick.
Today has been a day of 1,000 strategies for Sebastian Bourdais. You know, he came in early because of a tire that was going down. Then on lap 4, he came in for a splash of fuel. Then they thought when he cycled to the lead, they could build up a lead and then be able to come in and stretch it out a little bit further, but the yellows kept coming out. So they'd think they were coming in. Then they stayed out. Then they thought they were coming in. They stayed out. They finally decided this time they didn't want to push it any further. They brought him in, got him fuel. It cycles him to the back, but it puts him on a different strategy. And as we saw last year, sometimes a different strategy can win.
Well, you know the thing in your GPS that says recalculating.
Yeah. I'll bet anybody that wants to take the bet there will be another full course yellow.
Oh, just one?
Just one. Yeah, just one.
Less. They're getting the time between the full course yellows is getting a little bit longer.
All right, one to go here. As we went to our side-by-side coverage, you saw Jack Harvey finally climb from his damaged car. This is the one look that we have that somewhat shows us what happened as we scour through the various cameras. This is a tough part of the racetrack here. That wasn't the one.
Yeah.
Here, try this one. Here, watch off to the right here.
Oh,
yeah.
boy.
You see the back ends coming around.
Oh, no, there was a
tires
tires.
Tires gone.
Got no tire.
Yeah.
He was coming back into the pits with a flat right tire, and he got a little bit too quick, and he just lost it. See where he hit the wall right at the end?
Yeah.
Wow.
He actually wasn't going that hard when he hit, luckily.
I'm sure that doesn't make him feel any better.
No. Yeah. It's still not easy to go back and see the team owner, is it?
True.
Well, certainly we've had our share of excitement to start this Verizon IndyCar Series season so far today. Our friends at NBCSN take over the trip through Alabama and out to the West Coast and Phoenix and Long Beach. Then we rejoin you from the Speedway for the road course race, the IndyCar Grand Prix, May 12th, 3:30 Eastern, Indianapolis 500 qualification weekend, the 19th and 20th of May, and then the 102nd Indianapolis 500-mile race, our telecast presented by Firestone on Sunday, a Memorial Day weekend at 11 a.m. East.
And the rumor is we will have bumping at Indy.
Yeah, 36 cars. I think I said that earlier. 36 cars is what we're hearing to expect, which means on the Saturday of qualification, that's the day you set the 33.
I don't think we can say that enough.
It'll be a lot of fun. So Robert Wickens is your race leader. And what a great way to spend your first day in a Verizon IndyCar race.
He's making his mark.
With all these yellows, how many more laps do we need before we can actually make it with one more?
No, mate, it's a really big ask. We're just going to stick to the plan.
Okay, copy. So I don't really need to save then, do I?
That's correct.
Yeah, they had to come on and remind him. Remember, we're only 41 laps into a 110-lap race. It may seem like it's been all day, but there's so much to do. Now, I will tell you, they came on the radio just a moment ago and said when the green flag drops, you go like heck, shall we say. In other words, no fuel saving. You are free to go as fast as you can.
I don't think he's been hanging around from the beginning. He's been on pace the whole time.
There's one of the team co-owners, Sam Schmidt, along with Rick Peterson, SPM, Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, and of course Sam, a former driver himself. They completely retooled this organization over the winter, made a team management change a year ago, just decided they needed to change the culture of their shop. James Hinchcliffe, Wickens' teammate, said everyone on his timing stand this year is new. And of course the new teammate, Hinchcliffe and Wickens, long time friends. Their chemistry is palpable when you talk to the both of them together. It's like listening to two best friends share a story about an old hockey game back and forth. And
probably very important for this issue here is they drive a car that's very similar in need and style, which certainly helps the engineers provide something that's fast for both of them.
So Hinch running in fourth position, sorry Eddie, and Wickens the race leader with Rossi and Andretti right behind him coming to this restart.
Those close friendships tend to get frayed when you're running for first.
We've had a lot more yellow flags today than we had all of the last couple of races here.
Now we'll see if Rossi dives down to the inside or not. I would say he doesn't.
No, Wickens did a diamond shape on that last turn to get power down, almost like a motocross type of start, and he got the power down and no chance for getting past.
Marco Andretti tiptoeing on that inside line, trying to get his teammate for second.
But he did it perfect. He slowed down and didn't block his tires, and he is all over his teammate.
Now, the one thing about Marco Andretti's race so far, Marco has only run one of the 2 tire compounds in this race. You see the alternate tires, the softer red sidewall tires. You got to run both compounds of tire in the race. Marco hasn't been on the primary tires yet in this one.
After a couple of laps, once the tires have warmed up, and these red sidewall tires should warm up a little quicker because they're softer. If it's a short run, it's a benefit to Marco. If it's a long run, those tires might start to get hot, might start to go off, and then you end up having the guys with the black regular tires start to lead away from you.
The trick today here is to have fresh tires every chance you get. I don't think the tires are wearing as well as they're expecting, because the cars don't have much downforce and they're slipping and sliding all over the place, just ripping tire rubber off the tires.
So Bourdais went from racing for the lead back to 14th place now after the caution in the cycle of strategy. So you got to look at him in that 18 car along with Graham Rahal and some of the other drivers who pitted there trying to fight their way back through the traffic. And if you think you can predict how this is going to turn out and where the cautions and the strategy is going to be, good luck, because at this point it's a toss-up.
Just look how they weave through the city streets, those walls there. This place is so bumpy. There has been a little bit of repaving going. Graham Rahal trying to march his way back up. Looks like his teammate directly in front of him, the 30 of Takuma Sato.
Look at the back. Look at the back slide.
Yep.
That's Max Chilton right there in front of him.
Same looking car.
What an amazing
Blue and white
camera angle.
So part of the redesign of this race car, the IndyCar Series, very nicely designed in new places for onboard TV cameras to bring you more of the action at home.
He's gonna make a run at it.
You mentioned, Eddie, about the car sliding around. He was not able to get the power down for Max Chilton and ended up being about 3 or 5 miles an hour slower at the end of the straight. Graham Rahal takes advantage.
Look, and he's looking for that spot on the track that has grip.
Got that new look out the nose of the car. Also have one on the rear attenuator looking right out the back of the car. I'm sure you'll see a lot of those as the season goes on. Ed Jones looking inside of Max Chilton. Jones in the 10 gets the spot.
Chilton certainly looks like he's struggling right now with overall grip.
Here comes Scott Dixon, 3 wide to turn 4. And Dixon backs out.
Yep.
That was Zach Clayman DeMello who went through in the 19, one of the rookies, the youngster from Montreal. You get to see a lot more of visor cam this season also.
Certainly not the weekend that Josef Newgarden thought he would have. He was watching the #1 Hitachi car. On board. Team says he has such a work ethic, not only working out, but anytime he's not doing promotion on the road, inside the shop. Team manager Kyle Moyer said that he's still like a kid in the candy store every time he comes in. Can't believe what they have available at Penske for him to use. And the thing that I loved last year when he joined the team, he said, I even have somebody who takes care of my helmet for me.
When you drive for Team Penske, it's not just a job, it's a lifestyle. The whole thing, they just take over everything and you become part of the family.
So this is an example here of drivers on different tire schedules. Chilton, one of the last cars in line that stayed on the track under that last yellow, being passed by guys who just took fresh tires.
Because Chilton has over 20, I think 25 if I looked at those tires right now. Dixon.
And let's check his times and see what times he's doing.
Let's see.
Yes, Chilton's in trouble.
Yeah, well, I think Chilton's just trying to make some fuel numbers here, maybe hoping for another yellow.
So Max driving for Carlin, Trevor Carlin, long successful at fielding teams in feeder series, started in Europe, came to America a few years ago in Indy Lights. This year he's made the move to be one of the new entrants in the Verizon IndyCar Series. New drivers, new team owners coming in, this new car a lot of optimism around the start of this season in the direction the series has going forward.
And for Max Chilton, he said it's a little bit like going home now running for Carlin, and he's always won in every series he's ever run for Carlin, so he hopes he can get the job done here in IndyCar sometime this year.
There's Jordan King coming through as Charlie Kimball
offered no resistance.
Is also, I think, on that different tire strategy in that 23 car. He also driving for Trevor Carlin. Robert Wickens driving for Sam Schmidt, and Rick Peterson leads the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Wickens the dominant leader so far today in what has been a very exciting race. Marco Andretti's in the pits.
Yes, and he has those primary tires. Alan, you were just mentioning he was the only driver, at least in the top of the field, that had not run both types of these sidewall tires. Of course, this is primary, harder, more durable tire. He has a nice way to slot out here in some clean air, try to get these up to temperature and see if he can build some speed.
Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg nearing its halfway mark. The opener of the Verizon IndyCar Series here on ABC. Story of the day, Robert Wickens leading the field from pole position. He has led now 33 of the 53 laps we've completed. Sebastian Bourdais leading 14 and Jordan King leading 5. The real headline of the day are caution flags. We've had 5 already, and a lot of people finding a lot of trouble in the first half of this race as they try and get used to this brand new 2018 Verizon IndyCar Series machine that has less downforce, it slides around a lot more, and really it has higher straightaway speeds but less grip in the corner. It is proving to be a handful, but that's what everybody expected.
If I can add one thing to that headline that you just gave, the best Penske in the field is Power in 7th place. The last 5 years, they've always been at the front of the line.
So there's the lead. It is Wickens and Alexander Rossi who runs in 2nd place, Jan.
Yes, and Rob Edwards is on the radio talking to Alexander. Now, it looks like the strategy is intriguing. You're only 2 laps away from when Wickens pitted. Looks like maybe 2 stops. What's the call?
No, it'll be 3 stops. We got 2 more to make. Just trying to decide when's the optimum time to make them.
How do you feel the durability is between, you have to make a decision on the red alternates or the black primaries? You've now seen your teammate, for instance, Marco Andretti just pit. Which way do you want to go?
I think it's a little bit car dependent for us. We're pretty happy on the black tires, but obviously if there's a lot of restarts and so on, need to be cognizant of the red tires maybe at the end.
All right, thank you, Rob. And of course, yes, 2 to go as far as pit stops go, which will mean 4 for some people and 3 for others.
Pit stop for Will Power here. Tony Kanaan also in. Max Chilton, who we saw struggling on some older tires, is at the very far end of pit lane.
Out laps are so important as you ride along now with Will Power. Tony Kanaan just behind 2 veterans who now get the car up to speed. Takes 2 or 3 laps is the report right now till the drivers feel confident that the car is really underneath them. Sebastian Bourdais, a little look underneath Zach Veach. That was nicely done.
From both drivers. That's one of those things that...
We're going to pit this lap.
So Bourdais up to 7th place. Remember, he was the leader earlier, got cycled back to 14th on pit stops, Rick.
And let's talk about strategies. When he last pitted, it was late in the game. Bourdais' plan right now is to potentially do the rest of this race on just 1 stop. If he can pull that off and still maintain speed, he may cycle to the front.
That might be easier to do this year than it has been in the past because pace isn't really the issue, it's consistency. So if you can find a way to be fast enough and not use your tires, you could stretch that out to where you can do just 1 more stop.
So Max Chilton just off the pit lane in between 1st and 2nd. Rossi able to clear him there, but you see the leader's gotten away from him just a little bit.
Just a very tidy job by Robert Wickens. See a little bit of movement with the hands inside the cockpit for Alexander Rossi. These guys are definitely working more inside the cockpit, working at the wheel as we call it. Down the front stretch here, about 174 miles an hour. Now this is the bumpy section. Last year it would be just a smooth turn of the wheel. Now look at the work of the wheel over the bumps. Back up to 6th gear, about 150 miles an hour, hard on the brakes. This is where everybody was running off before, that turn 4 that we just passed. And here drivers were saying last year you could put the power down and not have to worry about having the back slide out and hit the wall. Here it's like threading a needle. Out of 9, This is the fast section, Eddie. A lot of guys could not do this kink we're about ready to come up to flat out. When they first got the car here, new as we talked about, hard braking. And this is the section that we saw Jack Harvey have a problem in. This is flat out. Look at the speed. A lot more work for drivers. As Jan mentioned earlier in the telecast, the heart rate is up.
Scott Dixon, Josef Newgarden, 9 and 1. They are in 11th and 12th. Zach Clayman DeMello is just in front of them in 10th. He's in that 19 car. Talked about the young rookie out of Montreal. A picture of what Clayman DeMello is. Let's see, the hat backwards, the body art, very relaxed posture, and a handful of race car right there. But very confident, knows he's got a lot to learn, but he has proven in the feeder series he's fast.
I had a driver like that once. His name was Buddy Rice.
Yep. Worked out okay, didn't it?
Yes, he did. He went on and won the Indy 500. He's very colorful. He seems very confident in the position that he's in. And he's got somebody behind him that wants to pass him in a hurry, Dixon. So we'll see how he can guard against that pressure.
So again, this going on back for 10th, 11th, and 12th. And it is about 28 seconds behind the leader, Robert Wickens. Wickens out in front. We're just past halfway here in St. Pete. We'll come back after this message and a word from your ABC station. Back live at St. Pete, the leaders on pit road.
Robert Wickens brings it in. So far, it's been a picture-perfect day for him. He's done everything right. They reminded him on the way in, use push to pass, get his stop. That's a delayed stop. As you can see on the left rear, it was a little bit longer than they wanted, Jan.
And his teammate takes the same lap to make a pit stop. And interestingly, he is going with scrubbed red sidewall tires. So they already have a heat cycle in these. That is a new strategy that I've not seen anyone else try. So split between the team cars on different strategies with tires.
So there's your new leader, Alexander Rossi, but again, we'll expect to see him on the pit lane some point in the not-too-distant future. Rossi, the Indianapolis 500 winner at Watkins Glen late in last season, really went on a streak at the end of the year last year. Said he started last year, he and his team wanted to win so badly that he and his engineer kind of maybe overlooked some basics in their communication and the way they were going about things. They had a little bit of an opportunity to reset midway through the year, and he finished last season on a real tear. And so far on the opening weekend of this year, he has had a lot of pace.
And he seems like he's a lot more confident. When you have an end of season like that and you can win a race and you get stronger and stronger and you communicate better with your engineer, that's why he's up front like this, because he has explained to the engineer what he needs in the car and it's working. And if you look at the hands, if you don't make those corrections in the steering wheel, you will crash. So every one of those instinctive corrections you make are because the back of the car is sliding around. And as Scott said earlier, it's a cardiovascular workout because you just don't sit there and turn and hold on. You have to be continuously correcting.
I think the previous car was almost like a video game where it was sort of point to point, and now you've got a lot more of the physical interaction going on inside the cockpit, much like our day.
Let's try to explain downforce. He's coming in the pits,
And one of the reasons why you see Alexander Rossi now, he has some more fuel, but when the people around you pit, when he just saw Wickens and Hinchcliffe pit, they say, we better come in. We do not want to get caught by a yellow. And just as Rob Edwards told us, he likes the sticker black primary Firestone. So they're going on. Don't see any other visible changes, of course. They want to get the fuel all the way topped off. That's 8.6, pardon me, seconds here for Rossi. Nice stop.
But there goes Wickens by.
I would venture to say he's put a bigger gap between that car.
And I'm just going to say Wickens did some awesome outlap, guys, because Wickens had a slower stop at 9.4 to the 8.6 for Rossi. So Wickens went out and laid down some awesome outlaps on cold tires.
So there's your new leader. Sebastian Bourdais cycles back to the front. Graham Rahal cycles up to second position. They both pitted about 18 laps ago. Then Wickens is in third. Rick?
It's interesting listening to the way the crew has been talking to them. Traditionally, we talk about push to pass when you're either trying to pass somebody or defending from a pass. They've been using the push to pass to get seriously fast laps when he's got clean air around him. So that's what's been able to get him a little bit of a gap over somebody like Rossi. When he didn't have anybody around him, they ran as fast as they possibly could. And as a result, he's been getting some good gaps.
Remember the push-to-pass function if you're new to IndyCar. On these twin-turbo V6, the electronic management systems, you can push a button and you get up to 150 seconds during a race of extra horsepower, as much as 60 extra horsepower for a maximum of 15 seconds at a time. Driver controlled from the cockpit, not available to you on restarts or the initial start of the race unless it's in the final couple of laps.
And I don't think that'd make a big difference in this little twisty section, but when they get in those long straightaways, boy, you can pick up a lot of time. Witkins really wants to get past Rahal, and if you could tell him, you'd have to tell him that he is one of the most difficult people to pass on the circuit.
Now for Rahal, he has pitted earlier, so his tires are worn just a little bit more. As Witkins continues to get another lap or two on here, his tires will be up to
He's
temperature.
close.
Oh, look at that corner.
He's close.
Power down was awesome at that point in time, which new tires do for you. Here he goes.
He does have fuel to burn. He does have fuel to burn. We do not.
There you go. There's the explanation why he got so much quicker.
Well, he also hit the push-to-pass button.
Because he could burn it.
Yep. Frustrating for Graham, and I can only imagine how frustrating it is for a driver when you're on a fuel number. And to make your strategy work, you've got to drive lap times that are not just everything you can do. It's, yeah, we need to tune the engine down a little bit electronically, or you need to just run a little bit slower lap time for us here in the pits.
It is immensely frustrating.
But you have to believe what they're telling you from the pit lane, because you have to think of the end result, whether it's 20 laps to go or 50 laps to go.
Yep.
They're the ones that are sitting there doing the calculations. Your job is to follow directions.
I've never had an engineer ask me, would you like to take option A or option B? They tell you, and you have to execute it as fast as you can, but you have to look at the traffic jam.
Yeah, this is all from 10th place on back. Ryan Hunter-Ray just passed Zach Clayman DeMello for 9th place. So Clayman DeMello in the 19, in 10th, etc. on back. And you can continue to watch this in our ABC side-by-side coverage as we continue from St. Petersburg. Selection Sunday is today, and tonight at 7 Eastern, Reese Davis, Tiki V, and a host of experts will have the complete bracket breakdowns on Bracketology. SportsCenter starts it off at 5 Eastern on ESPN when they reveal the NCAA men's field of 68 as the teams are announced. It's also streaming live on the ESPN app, so you can keep an eye on all things today in all different ways how your favorite team is. I'm personally going for the Rhodey Rams to see where they're placed in the field of 68.
Good luck.
Just so you know.
Good luck.
So here's the race for the lead. Sebastian Bourdais and Robert Wickens in the 18 and 6 respectively. Wickens the pole sitter. Bourdais came from a little bit deeper in the field. 14th starting spot. Had a problem earlier. Had to make an early pit stop. Topped off on fuel again. The cautions and the strategy have been worked quite successfully by his team. And Wickens, he's just been the fastest car on the racetrack all day in that 6.
And he has the advantage of having fresher tires on now.
By about 18 laps.
Which is a lot today.
Rick DeBrule can tell us stories on both of these two. Sorry, Rick.
That's okay. Let's talk about the strategy between these two. Start with for Bourdais. Once again, he only needs one more stop, but he's a lot longer into his tires. But they've made it clear that he's now racing Wickens for the lead. He's got to save his tires. He's got to be in a fuel strategy, although they did just give him clearance to use push to pass. Meanwhile, they've told Wickens, that guy ahead of you, he's saving fuel. Do anything you can to pass him. Do what you have to do, because you also only have one more stop, but you got fresher tires. And by the way, they both have fresh sets of reds for the last stint if they want them.
All right, Rick. It's an interesting wrinkle this year that this new Indy car brings, because there is less downforce being generated by the car and it's sliding around more. The tire wear and the tire fall off that really wasn't a huge factor on the primary tires, the black sidewall tires in previous seasons. Now it's a factor on both sets of tires, and that cross where the time fall off on tires versus what you're gaining by staying out on fuel has become a much more moving target for the engineers and strategists.
And the teams have zero information on it. This is the first information they have gathered. So come Monday, and if they could redo the race
It'll be
again,
all right? Oh, never mind.
They would have a totally different strategy, because they really have nothing to go on other than what they're learning right now.
It's been very interesting watching here from the helicopter view. Robert Wickens, the car that's behind Sebastian Bourdais, usually gets a great drive coming off the turns, but is he now starting to save fuel? They told him, as we heard from Rick, hey, just go ahead and go for it, but he is not getting out of the turns as quickly as he was previously, guys. I'm wondering if he's now starting to save fuel at the same time.
Yeah, but look at him eat the distance when it comes to braking and the slow stuff.
Yeah. But you get a run out of 9 going down through 10. Seems like at this area here, we'll wait to see what happens. Sebastian pulls away just a little bit. So is his car better with power down, or is he just saving some fuel? Sort of a cat and mouse game. You got two guys that are very experienced there. The car in front, Sebastian Bourdais, in the yellow and black machine, has won 4 national championships in IndyCar. And Robert Wickens, yes, a rookie, but a lot of European experience where racing over there is very tough, Eddie, as you know.
I think Eddie said this earlier when we were talking about Wickens. And forgive me if I can't remember if it was on the air or off the air, but you said anybody that's a factory driver for Mercedes, they know what they're doing.
So you don't get there by you only get there by invitation.
Yeah,
it's not something you'd be pounding on the door. But every time I see Bourdais right now, I remember that horrific accident he had in qualifying. How many months ago was that?
I was at Indianapolis in the middle of May last year. Suffered injuries that kept him out of the car for a lot of the summer. They expected would keep him out of the car for this season. But he got back in late August and finished last season. And when we talked to him the other day, we asked him, okay, so where are you physically? And said, I'm 100% with everything, except my golf swing. I can't quite make the hip turn for the golf swing yet, but I'm working on that.
And where's the last race he won?
It was right here.
Last year.
Last season.
And what position is he in now? He's leading.
Got a long way to go.
And he's got a rookie that's hot on his tail. So he's going to have to really dig deep in his bag of tricks.
And speaking about rookies, you think Robert Wickens from Canada would want to play hockey. Well, he was doing that as a kid, but as a young guy, he had to go with his mom, who's driving a bus, as a job. As a 6-year-old, he sat there and watched his mom drive a bus. He met somebody on the bus that was racing go-karts, and they said, hey, you want to come to the go-kart track and watch me drive? He went to the go-kart track and never looked back, didn't want anything to do with hockey, and just went on to go-kart racing, and here he is today.
Said he's playing broom hockey. That's his thing, broom hockey.
Not as dangerous.
But he said there might be things in a driver's contract these days, whether you're racing for Mercedes factory or here in IndyCar, that keep you off of skates.
How's my first attack this race compared to people at right?
We have 65 seconds remaining. 65 seconds remaining. Rossi has 41. Bourdais has 132.
All right, here with the strategist, Pierce Phillip, let's talk about what your strategy is for the rest of this race. You haven't quite been able to get a hold of Bourdais just yet. What's the strategy?
We just got to push hard. We've got one more stop to make. We don't need to save fuel. We're just pushing as hard as we can.
What about the state of the tires? Are the tires holding out?
We're pretty good on the blacks, actually. He's learned to look after them really well, so we're really happy.
You go red or black for the last stint?
Black.
There you go. You got the answer from the strategist.
Reluctantly, it seemed like, but he did admit. Very nice, Rick.
This is the first time we've seen Robert Wickens start to have the car work underneath him, waddle around, as I like to call it, Eddie.
Waddle.
And so he is absolutely pushing to the limit.
I was hoping you had forgotten that word over the winter.
It's no duck walk in the park. It's an IndyCar Series race through the park and the airport and a couple of streets in downtown St. Pete. Wickens chasing Bourdais. Race for the lead in the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, the season opener for the Verizon IndyCar Series here on ABC. We'll be back with you for the month of May at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the road course race, the IndyCar Grand Prix on May 12th, qualification weekend on the 19th and 20th, and then the 102nd Indianapolis 500. Telecast presented by Firestone. Sunday, Memorial Day weekend, 11 a.m. Coming up on March the 28th is the open test on the oval for this new car for the first time. And it should be quite interesting to see how the new car reacts on the big speedway. Don't forget, you can download IndyCar Mobile from Verizon and see all the exclusive onboard angles and pick your choice of a whole pile of live content. So the race for the lead now beginning to catch some traffic. That's Max Chilton just ahead of the leaders.
But has caught him at the great spot because he has an opportunity into the pit lane.
So he's going to have to fight the traffic. Instead, they'll call him onto the pit lane for a stop, Rick.
Well, last year, Dale Coyne and Sebastian Bourdais played the strategy game, and it played out. They're doing it again. They're going to bring him in, put on sticker black tires, not reds. Even though they got a fresh set of reds, they're doing a slight wing change, half a turn up, getting all the fuel in, send him back out to see if he can do battle with Wickens, John.
And a similar strategy for Graham Rahal. He just now arrives at his box. If you stop now, along with Sebastian Bourdais, it is possible that you could make it to the end of the race, but you'd have to save fuel. He goes with scrub blocks. That's 8.3 seconds for Graham Rahal, so a quick stop again. Anyone who stops during this lap, you got to save fuel if you want to get home, unless there's a yellow.
Scott Dixon, Ed Jones, Josef Newgarden, Zach Clayman DeMello all stopping on this lap. That the list on the strategy that Jan just described.
Well, let's see what Wickens does.
Scott Dixon, a pass-through penalty. I'll double-check what it's for, but a pit speed violation. All right, for Dixon. So the tough day for the four-time champ continues.
For right now, for Wickens, he's going to be told, he knows it because he's an experienced driver, this is when he needs to lay down some great laps so he can hopefully have a lead in front of Sebastian Bourdais when he comes out of the pit lane. So right now, he's going to be pushing as quickly as possible. I'm going to watch to see if his time is actually going to go down.
But you're asking a lot from him because his tires are old, and he's been pushing hard. So he's going to have to drive very gingerly to get that speed out of it. Maybe he'll start using that push to pass more often.
And we'll let you know that here very shortly also. But for him, this is what he's going to be working and doing. But he's a trained professional, Eddie. He can do this.
Remember when we asked Josef Newgarden if you could overdrive the car, and he didn't have any hesitation at all. He said, yes, you can. So you can actually try to drive harder and end up going slower.
Those are in seconds. You are seeing the units on that screen.
Let's see if he comes in. Oh, another one.
And he is on that push-to-pass button down this long front straightaway.
32 remaining.
Now you hear 5 laps till we pit.
Boy, you're right, Scott. He's got to make up as much time as he can and hope the cars behind him get stuck in traffic.
Because you mentioned that he's on older tires right now, so the car's sliding around. Everybody that's now pitted, new tires, more grip, easier to turn a faster lap, but you might have to throttle back the fuel, as Jan mentioned, to get to the end. It's going to be interesting to see what strategy is going to play out here.
Here's another one of the new teams in the Verizon IndyCar Series season. This is Harding Racing. Gabby Chavez, former Rookie of the Year behind the wheel. Remember, ran just the oval track races last year. They were as high as the top 6 in this race earlier today. Good job for Chavez and that team. Here's Marco in.
Yes, and Marco Andretti would be right on the cusp of being able to make it to the end without having to go crazy on the fuel save, as we saw potentially for some of the cars that we saw pit, let's say Graham Rahal and Sebastian Bourdais. Every driver that pits after this, every lap that they can go, when you heard Wickens say we want 5 more laps, that's because they want to turn them loose at the end of the race without having to save fuel. But every lap you stay in the lead right now, if there's a caution, they would get bit by someone like Marco Andretti or Graham Rahal, someone who had already made their stop.
And that's what they're betting on. Now, of course, we had 5 cautions in the first half of the race. We haven't had any since. The last time the yellow flag waved was back at lap 39. We're at lap 81 now.
We haven't had a lot of cars close to each other lately, though, have we? They've kind of spread out.
Well, that's that whole cautions breed cautions theory. When you pack them up, sometimes they pack themselves together.
Yes, they breed.
So Wickens with a 4-second lead on Alexander Rossi. James Hinchcliffe nearly 9 seconds back. Ryan Hunter-Reay, Sebastian Bourdais round out the top 5. Bourdais 28 seconds back. It's about a 25-second trip down the pit lane at pit road speed plus your fuel stop. When will Wickens stop? About 2 more laps from now, so we'll take a break, come back and cover it for you. There is your race leader on a beautiful day in St. Petersburg. We're back after this in a word from your ABC station. Alexander Rossi on the pit lane. He just took over the lead. Robert Wickens pitted a lap ago. Jan?
And yes, he's going to try and take that lead, take some fresh black sidewalls, and I have a few more laps to work with than some of the others, but nearly on the same strategy as Wickens. That was a 7.2 second stop. That's very quick for the end of the race when the fuel is gravity fed, and we got a race on.
So Rossi back out to rejoin the chase. There is Robert Wickens. There is Rossi. Where is Bourdais? There he is, back there.
So Rossi has cold tires on.
Yes.
Bourdais has well warmed up tires, and Wickens' tires are coming up to temperature.
So when Wickens went down the pit lane, he had about a 3-second gap on Bourdais if you use that 25-second pit lane time. and he came out almost 10 seconds ahead. So lightning time on pit road for Wickens, plus those in-laps, Scott, you were talking about, and now the out-laps.
And his pit stop was 7 seconds, guys, so a little bit quicker than everybody else, although the other guys did have strong stops. He was very, very quick.
Save the push to pass. Do not use push to pass in the meantime.
Got to save some gas.
Not only save some gas, but save it in case you need power a little bit later on.
Wickens down to 26 seconds of push to pass left. Ryan Hunter-Reay is actually the race leader. He is right there. Remember, Hunter-Reay dove to pit road as the green flag was waving for the second year in a row here at St. Pete.
He is the king of comebacks.
Telling you.
But for Ryan Hunter-Reay, he's probably somewhere between 2 to 4 laps of needing to come in to the pit lane for fuel.
It's going to put him back around a race for 7th or 8th.
He could really use a full course yellow to get the whole.
Not till he pits.
No, after, he pits and then a full course yellow.
Yep.
Look how much they work the wheel here, Eddie.
Hit this lap, hit this lap.
There we go.
Dave Sharpley, the outside front tire changer for Ryan Hunter-Reay, awaits him on the pit lane.
Yeah, let's take another half turn.
Half turn of front wing, do not wait on it. Half turn, do not wait.
I wouldn't do that for all the
tea in China.
Exactly.
There's cars going by you at 50 miles an hour.
So after Hunter-Reay pits, Wickens cycles back to the front of the field with 25 laps to go.
I don't think Rossi is gaining on him at this point.
Well, times are very close right now, within a tenth of a second of each other. Wickens 26 seconds of push to pass left. Alexander Rossi 20. So they're very close in speed, very close in push to pass.
How many seconds are left for Bourdais?
Seb has a minute 25.
That's a lot.
So he's got a lot of time he can lean on it. But he pitted sooner. Does he have to save more fuel? The things we have to figure out in these final 24 laps. At the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, 22 laps to go. You're looking from second up to first. Alexander Rossi chasing Robert Wickens into the late stages of this one. Both expect they've made their final pit stops. We thought the race was between Sebastian Bourdais and Wickens on pit road, but Wickens' team made that quick work. And out he went and built a lead that was enough to put Bourdais 8 seconds behind. I know it's not over yet, but Robert Wickens is our Firestone Durable Driver of the race. Guy in his first ever Verizon IndyCar Series race. He's led 50 of the 89 laps. He won pole position in a chaotic qualifying session. And he's having the best day of anybody out here so far, Rick.
Indeed he is. We're standing by with Sam Schmidt, co-owner of this team, and talking about the fact in the offseason you decided to blow everything up. One of the things you did was go hire a second driver. You didn't look for a paid driver. Now, I would normally ask why Robert Wickens, but I think we can see that. But let's ask, where did you find him? Why did you decide to take this guy in the offseason?
Well, he won the Formula 3.5 championship back in 2003, and actually Rossi finished 4th in that championship. And then the last 6 years with Mercedes DTM, great success there. Not big endurance driver, and those cars have very low downforce, and he's got a highly technical background, so it was the perfect storm for us, and his relationship with James didn't hurt either.
All right, let's talk about the fact that it wasn't just drivers you added. You also added a lot of new crew members, and those guys on Wickens' team just turned in a ridiculously fast stop. You made a lot of changes. Did you have that much faith that it hit the ground running like this?
Yeah, no, literally 50% of the guys over the wall here are new, and mixing, matching, but they've been working their tails off ever since the checkered flew at Sonoma, as far as pit stops and crossing every T and dotting every I. Oh, sorry, a little spasm, but great to see our long-term team sponsor, Lucas Oil, on the side of this thing, 14 years and a new one in Flexbox. So, I've learned a long time ago, you can't catch your chickens before they hatch. and this is going to be a hell of a race for the end.
All right, once again, Sam Schmidt hoping that his driver can hold on.
Of course, Sam injured in a racing crash years ago and is confined to that wheelchair, but you won't find anyone with a better attitude and a better spirit and more determined, does more things for other people than worry about himself. And watching his driver try to hold off an Indy 500 winner, Alexander Rossi, has the radar lock on Robert Wickens. He is reeling him in slowly every lap.
2 to 3/10 of a second, Alan. I've been watching the times here, and it's just a creep. Now, you're not going to get such a big gain here because these guys are professionals, Eddie, and they very seldom ever make a mistake. What we're talking about here is just a little handling of the car, how quick you can get your foot on the gas, or maybe sliding through the turn, but he's inching his way forward.
Rossi has 2 things to do. The first is to catch him and put himself in position, and the second is to pass him. They are 2 totally separate things. But while he's doing that, he has to make sure he keeps his tires under him. If you start pushing too hard, you're in trouble. Look at him. Look, he's right on him now. But now the air is dirty. He's got a different line.
And I do want to add that tires, I was thinking about this just in the last break when we went through all this. For Wickens, it seems like his car is tremendous on new tires. I think we noticed before with Sebastian Bourdais that the tires seem like they have gone off on Wickens' car when he was chasing Sebastian. Couldn't get the power down. Is Wickens going to start to back up as his tires start to wear? Has Rossi got a car that's maybe better towards the end? That's what we're waiting to find out.
Great battle.
All right, we'll continue to track this fight for the lead. As we go to break, side-by-side coverage continues. Wickens and Rossi at the head of the field, 9 seconds clear of Bourdais in third. March 25th, ESPN2 with the Formula One season opener live from Down Under, the Australian Grand Prix. Our coverage presented by Mother's Polish. Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes, Ferrari, maybe Red Bull. Has the makings of an intriguing season for sure. And stay up late. The Australian Grand Prix coming on March 25th. Here at St. Petersburg, Verizon IndyCar Series season opener. A chaotic start. A lot of drivers had trouble. One of them who's made the best recoveries, the car looking out the front here, that's Graham Rahal. Remember, he had contact down in turn 1 at lap 7, went all the way to the back, had problems in qualifying, didn't finish, started last in the field. Now here he is racing in 4th position with 15 laps to go.
With a strong car underneath him, Scott.
And a guy that has a lot of push to pass left in his bank, but unfortunately he pitted back in lap 77, probably doesn't have the fuel available to be able to take advantage of that, so he's probably doing a little bit of fuel conservation right now, but still going to come out with a great finish, as Alan mentioned.
Up 20 positions from where he started. Bourdais, another one, had trouble early in the race. Remember, he had a puncture, had to make an extra pit stop, has rallied up from deeper in the field.
Rossi
had a
12th.
Qualifying penalty, did Rossi, as did Marco Andretti. And again, all the chaos we had in the first part of this race, the first 40 laps, shuffled and shook the order up. There's Dixon going by his teammate Ed Jones for 7th place. Dixon, another one that's been involved in a couple of things earlier today that cost him some track position. Got caught on the wrong side of things in the chaotic qualifying session with weather difficulties coming in. Started farther back than he wanted, and then got scuffled up with that was Sato earlier in the race, and then made a move into turn 1 that just didn't work out, couldn't get the car stopped, was penalized for avoidable contact, went to the back. Now here he is, rallying back up inside now the top 7. But up front, it's Alexander Rossi trying to chase down Robert Wickens.
Good job, hang in there, 15 to go, you can do it. Copy, I'm waiting. Copy.
Did he say I'm waiting? Is that what he said?
I couldn't understand.
Yes, he did. So. He said on the radio to the team, they had just finished in that radio conversation about telling him, work the rear bar. In other words, make a suspension adjustment. They were trying to coach him, trying to get him to go, go, go. And that's when he replied saying, I am waiting. So he's trying to set this up, trying to save an opportunity where you just go all out to try to close the gap. Because as you guys know, you don't want to run right behind for a long period of time. You lose the adhesion of the tires. You kind of plan it, go for a run to the front, and hope you can slingshot by.
Rossi's opportunity might be right here with these 2 cars that are in front of him.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get by him at the end of the straightaway, Rossi has a great opportunity turning into 4.
And I think Rossi saw that. You saw back in turns 8 and 9, the back end come out from Rossi, who was pushing hard, trying to get the power down. I think he saw that traffic up ahead and decided, I got to get up there right now and go play.
Yeah, you got to get with him to have an opportunity to take advantage in the traffic. Zach Clayman DeMello in the 19 Dale Coyne Racing entry is the last car on the lead lap. That was Charlie Kimball, who saw them coming and who pulled over. Did Rossi just go through in turn 4? Kept it out of the runoff, but lost a pile of ground, and that might be it right there.
Oh, man.
Well, he was driving so well.
Here's a replay.
See what he was doing? He was thinking, here's a chance to make up a little bit of time.
But what a recovery right at the last second.
Yeah, because he thought Wickens is going to get boxed up behind Carmen DeMello through 8, 9, and 10. But he just went too hard. That's the lack of adhesion on the track that we've talked about, Eddie, because the cars have less downforce. Last year's car, you could drive it deep into the turn, get on the brakes, turn the steering wheel, get on the gas. These cars you can't. Now he's got some ground he has to make up.
I have total admiration for what he just did and what he tried to do and what he got away with.
So from 0.7 seconds back, 0.7 of a second, to 2.7 seconds back for Alexander Rossi. Do we get a yellow? Does he get another shot? Or is Robert Wickens going to win his very first IndyCar Series start? The finish coming up.
The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg is brought to you by Firestone. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
Caution has just come out here at St. Petersburg for a car into the tire wall in turn 10. It's Rene Binder, the Austrian, in his first IndyCar Series start. He's overshot the next to last corner. And the gap that Wickens had on Rossi is gone.
Oh, boy.
We have a race.
Exactly what Alexander Rossi wanted. Now, as the car comes down to the turn, you can see it was out of our frame for a second. Just looks like he locked up the brakes by the marks on the road, Eddie. And as a young rookie, he's done a good job here this weekend. But I also think I recall that he said he had not been in these long of races before. So this is a long, punishing race on a bumpy street circuit here like St. Petersburg.
You know who else is smiling right now? Bourdais.
And Ray Hall and Hinchcliffe and everybody else.
That's right. Well, you can't go that far back. I'm talking about the win.
I can go as far back as Ray Hall and Hinchcliffe because the three in front of him could end up taking each other all out the way we've seen.
I was going to say, what are you saying that for? I mean, if you can see it.
I take it back. Yeah. Hinchcliffe, Ray Hall, Bourdais all have and Rossi all have a chance.
Well, how badly do you think the nerves just went up inside the cockpit of that 6 car, right? When Rossi made the mistake and he got away, okay, focus, hit your marks, run these laps out. Here's the yellow. Now you got to regroup inside and execute a restart on worn tires with a hungry pack of wolves right behind you.
My money's still on Robert.
But if you look down the straightaway, why did they have to do this? Because in the frame, if you look down the straightaway, these guys will see it. That car was parked right there against the wall. They had no choice.
Yeah, I think there are some nerves there.
Yeah.
That's my best. I'm not showing you how agonized I am, face.
That's really tough, I think, waiting in the pits for the end of a race, isn't it? Yeah. That means so much for him.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have probably about a 6-lap race here at the end.
And it should be full fuel, full go, because this should help. This should help. Nobody has to worry about fuel.
Bourdais got a lot of push to pass left.
Got 15 cars on the lead lap. I wonder if anybody toward the back of that line is going to stop and throw some tires at it. No way these front guys are. I don't see any takers there, although we still got a lot of the field catching up to the pace car. How about it, Jan?
Well, Rob Edwards, you were just on the radio with Alexander saying, think big picture, bring it home. But now we have a new ball game. What's the coaching now? Are you going to allow him to go for it?
Strategy's now to win, right? But, qualifying 12th after yesterday, obviously up until this yellow came, we were going to be, not unhappy with second. Obviously not a win, but not unhappy with it. But now everyone's stacked up. Time to go racing again.
You were telling him to work the rear bar. What is it of the car that he wanted to get more grip with?
Rear was sliding a bit, and so we were just trying to bring the car back in balance again.
Okay, so it's a new opportunity for Alexander Rossi. Let's get down to Rick.
Yeah, we're here where Piers Phillips is talking to Robert Wickens right now. Been giving him advice a little bit earlier. He told him it was all about tires and heat in the brakes. That's what they were trying to tell him a moment ago when trying to get a word in with Piers, but as you can tell, he's been trying to talk to Robert Wickens. All right, we're going to jump in. So what's the plan on the restart? What do you tell him to survive this as a rookie?
Fight, run as hard as you can.
It's as simple as that. You talked about tires and temperatures in the brakes.
Just trying to keep temp up and everything.
All right, well, once again, Piers Phillip, a busy guy at this point in the race.
And we thank him for taking a minute to talk to us. Can you imagine?
Yes.
You've been this dominant all day. Now you've got your rookie driver with a very hungry Alexander Rossi behind him, who was one of the best at the end of the season last year in fighting to be up front. You want to find a way to get the W.
His engineers summed it up perfectly. Fight.
But
pits are open here. It's lap cars that are coming down the pit lane here. Clayman DeMello, Kimball, Piggott, Veach, all those cars are one lap down. So Alexander Rossi, after seeing it potentially slip away, has a new lease on potentially a trip to victory lane.
Good news is we'll be right with Robert. The bad news is that Bourdais will be right behind us once they do wave bys here.
Summed up pretty well.
Yeah.
Good news, bad news.
Have you noticed how the messages from the pits are getting shorter and shorter?
Well, you know, it's all what we're thinking in the cockpit right now. You know what you need to do. You know the job that has to be done. But for Robert Wickens, the start was wonderful. The restart was great. When you can pull away in the start from a guy like Will Power, he timed it correctly. Everything has been perfect, and everything that he's done here today, he just has to do it one more time.
So his biggest problem is don't get past at the start. Be clean in 1, 2, and 3. Once you get to 4, then his tires have come up to temperature. He can start to drive defensively.
And then be perfect. Be perfect for the next few laps. That's all I'm asking.
That's all.
That's all.
Nothing more.
All right, we're about half a lap away from the restart. Just a couple quick things to tidy up here, and then we can focus on this fight for the win. Normally, you come to St. Pete, Team Penske dominates. Very difficult day for them today, and they will not finish very well. Josef Newgarden, the highest runner right now for Penske, in 9th. Will Power 10th. Simon Pagenaud 15th. Tough start to the season for the captain, not what they're used to at St. Pete. Hondas have dominated, the Penske's being the lead Chevrolet team for the most part. When they struggle, it's not probably going to be a great day for the Bowties, and Rogers' team there is how they're running into these final laps.
It'll be a long Monday there.
All right, up front, they have just waved off the restart, so it's now going to be a 4-lap race to the finish.
It's one more lap to put pain in you and think about this.
Put pain in you? Is that what you
said? Look how the drivers are not going off line, so they don't pick up any of that rubber.
Yeah.
Those bits of rubber.
Yeah. A lot of marbles out there.
You don't want any marbles on your tires turning in.
And getting offline in turn 1 has been tricky today, right? We saw one of the very best out there, Scott Dixon, have troubles trying to go low and get it slowed down to make an under-braking pass.
But Alan, it started working towards the end. They've started putting rubber down, and I've seen a few cars pull it off.
Well, the guarantee will be not just 1, but probably 2 or 3 cars wide going down there. And we've seen, as you mentioned, going down the inside. Will they make it, or will they slide through, take somebody out? That's all the thing that's in your mind as a leader of the event.
Turn 1, the end of the runway here at Albert Whitted Airport. Runway 725. Runway's numbered for the degree on the compass that they face.
Slippery 725.
Yeah. And the hard end of that is where turn 1 is, and one of the better passing opportunities here at the course. There's also turn 4 that's proved very tricky on the weekend, and where they're coming now, turn 10. That is a hard braking point. So 4 laps to go. Will it be the rookie, Robert Wickens of Canada, or will it be the Indianapolis 500 winner, Alexander Rossi? Sebastian Bourdais, last year's winner in 3rd. Graham Rahal, can something happen that he can take advantage of? We will find out as they come to the green flag to settle it out here in St. Pete. Oh, Rossi with a slide, and what a solid job on the restart so far for Wickens.
He diamond turns 13 and 14 again, was able to get the power down a straight line sooner than Rossi.
Push the passes active.
Oh, and there's a car in the barrier. He's got it running. That's Max Chilton.
Oh,
can he keep it running?
No,
he
stalled it. Oh, no. Wickens has got to go through this one more time again.
No, he diamonded it again. Good power down. He's thinking
yellow. Yellow is out for Chilton's stalled car. And we're not done yet.
His
it's going to happen.
She goes, man, are you kidding me?
Here's how I see this, right? They got to get the safety truck out, get Chilton's car fired, clear the course, give 1 to go. We might have a 1-lap race to the finish of this one.
But he has the confidence that he did it perfectly. I think he actually accelerated before the zone where they're supposed to accelerate. There's 2 cones where you're supposed to accelerate in.
Well, I like the system it is right now. You come off that last turn, it's time to go racing. If you do that cone system where you all come up here to the front stretch, you're a sitting duck,
I totally agree.
And it's never agreed with it, but that's what we've always had.
Field goes by. Safety team working to try and get that starter gear engaged on the 59. It fires up. Chilton will drive away. We should get the 1 to go signal at the line, and that will bring us around for the restart with 1 lap remaining in the race. They're going to go this time. They're going to restart this time. Lights out on the pace car was just the command.
Going green this time. Pace car lights are out. Going green.
That's a good call.
Pink 4.
Very good call.
So it'll be 2 laps to go. Kyle Novak, the new race director for the Verizon IndyCar Series, one of the many changes this year after Brian Barnhart, the longtime race director, has moved on to be team president at Harding Racing. Novak will call the green flag here. Rossi trying to stay right with Wickens. Here they come as the pace car heads to pit road. Green flag, 2 laps to go.
Rossi's close enough.
Looking, turn 1. He slides, there's contact. Wickens spins. Bourdais goes through. Sebastian Bourdais is leading with Graham Rahal behind him. Hinchcliffe inside of Rossi. And Wickens sits stalled in turn 1.
Unbelievable.
Yellow for Wickens' car.
Full course yellow, pits are closed.
Wow. Oh, man.
And that should do it for Sebastian Bourdais. He's going to get the caution at the white flag.
2 years in a row. How about that?
Wow.
Recovering from that accident, coming back here. It's such an eventful race and winning it again.
You know what he's thinking, though, when he saw those guys go around from him? He takes the lead.
I believe this is white flag, Sebastian. I believe this is white flag.
What about that turn of events late in the race? Well, you had to know Rossi was going to go for it if he felt there was any chance. That inside line has been delicate. He got there when he tried to power up, my opinion. You guys are the drivers.
But
it just wouldn't stick.
He was wiggling. I mean, it was a long shot. He had to take it, but it was a long shot.
But it comes back from turns 13, 14. Wickens did not get the drive off of and he didn't do the same style restart previously. So now he looks in his mirror, sees Rossi come on the inside. Perfect line here, but Rossi's already sliding. We talked about less downforce in the car, and just hits the back end of Wickens.
Yeah.
See, he didn't have this run on him last time.
He had no choice. He had to go for that. He had no choice. This is where he starts to slide.
Yeah, fans love it. Listen.
What a great race.
See, he wasn't this close.
This will show us. This will show us.
Now, I'll say that the stewards are reviewing the contact between the 6 and 27.
What purpose?
Well,
it doesn't do 6 any good.
Who cares? Because Rossi's going to finish in 4th, and they could penalize him deeper into the grid.
But they can't give him back.
They can't give Wickens back the win, no.
Yes.
Wow. Well, this day has had more than I think the word you used on the opening was chaos. I've repeated it several times. We finish in chaos as well after a late restart.
Now watch this.
You nailed it, though,
front,
Scott. You nailed it.
He usually is diming this, comes out of the diamond like a motocross, and he's gassing it now.
No, but what happened the time before, he got a jump on him. This time he didn't let him. He was right on his gearbox. And he was close enough that he could make a run for it. And when he went, he just went, I'm going. Kind of like Kanan did at Indy and got away with it.
Checkered flag for Sebastian Bourdais. His second win in his hometown of St. Petersburg. He lives just a few miles from where the race course is set up. He says he's proud to be from St. Petersburg. He's proud to represent the city. I'm proud to be a St. Pete resident.
Do, but take good care of that thing. Don't overheat it, okay?
And must be the team owner.
After what we saw in Indianapolis last May, here he is in Victory Lane. How cool is that?
And just to define it, that was a horrible moment in his career. To be able to recover from that and come back and win again where he started that run last year. A great race car driver.
Hometown crowd there, bud. Nicely done today.
Now, it's not like he backed into the win because he led the second most laps in this race, got behind on an exchange of pit stops earlier, and just was a little too far back to catch up, but he was in position when the leaders in front of him tangled.
And that's all you have to be there.
Yep.
You have to be close. And you said, well, the first couple of cars come up to the restart, but you know from doing this, if you're third, fourth, if you can see and sniff the leader, you think you can win this thing.
I cannot say that Rossi did the right thing. He did the only thing he could. That was for a win.
Have to be just gutted for Robert Wickens. What a drive today. Everybody knows his name now here in the IndyCar audience, but Sebastian Bourdais is going to celebrate in Victory Lane. As we take a look at the final finishing order from today's race, Graham Rahal comes back for second. Hunter Ray was on pit road when the green flag waved. He comes back for fifth. Will Power crashed and spun around on the second corner of the first lap. He comes back for a top 10.
What a great drive from Graham Rahal. And it's really important for their team after all the work they've done this winter to be able to go away with the second place. And it was looking pretty bad for a moment.
Now, just an asterisk here. If you click on the IndyCar website later and you find some of these positions have shuffled, they do have to go back and review this with all the chaos of the final lap and make sure. But this is how they're scored at the moment, with, of course, Sebastian Bourdais getting the top line on the chart.
You know, it's interesting because I think this new car has taken maybe some of the advantage away from some of the big teams. Wickens, you see there, marked in the 18th spot, and a rookie could have won this race today. We have a bit of the changing of the guard going on, Eddie, with 7 rookies here so far. Yes, Matthias Lace is at the very end of it, but I count for him to possibly win a race this year. It was exactly what his teammate Tony Kanaan said earlier this year.
I would not be shocked if Wickens sticks his nose up there very often this year for a win.
Stewards have reviewed the contact between the 27 and 6. No action will be taken.
So
it's racing.
For me, that was a racing. He didn't run into him. They just were fighting for the same piece of track. What a great win. I'm so proud of that. You've spent time in the hospital. You know what it's like sitting in a hospital bed when somebody else is driving a race car.
Well, when we saw him crash at Indianapolis, I was just concerned about his existence. Yeah. That was such a hard impact. Really worried for him. And then, honestly, at his age, I thought he might even think about retirement, but he's come back stronger.
Congratulations from Scott Dixon.
A lot of camaraderie in IndyCar.
Coming up to basketball momentarily, NBA Countdown, and then, of course, the Warriors and the Timberwolves on the way momentarily here on ABC. But we want to hear from the winner. You can, I think, see the emotion and the exhaustion that's been taken out of him by, no doubt, a quick thought of where things were back in May and where they are now in Victory Lane.
That's a true warrior in that car.
I think Seb wants a minute to just rest after that hard-fought day. Is that his dad?
That's great to see.
We're going to jump in right now with Sebastian Bourdais. He is exhausted. Let's talk about the emotional journey that you have had. You won this race a year ago, and that was emotional. What does it feel like today?
Well, this one is emotional because we had to overcome a few bumps and rolls and a ball of fire and a few broken bones to come back in this victory circle. So, I couldn't be any happier for the whole Delcorn Racing, Vassar Sullivan, and Sealmaster and everybody on board and all the boys. I mean, they worked so hard. It's a tiny group, but they worked their tails off. And we didn't have the fastest car today, but we had consistency and we just we pulled it together. We're gonna get a podium, which was awesome. And I was really happy for Robert, and kind of heartbroken for him, but for us it's just such an overcome. It's such an upset. I can't quite put it into words.
After the accident at Indy, there were a lot of people that questioned not whether you would come back, but if you should come back. You right off the bat said you were going to, but there has to be a moment when you thought about it.
No, not really. When I got the verdict of what was broken and that it was going to, heal pretty well, and it was never a question in my mind whether I should continue or stop. And guess I'm glad I did continue.
Sebastian Bourdais, for the second year in a row, uses strategy and a little luck to win the race here in St. Petersburg.
Wow, that's all I can say. Wow, what a day here at St. Pete. What a debut for the new 2018 Verizon IndyCar Series machine. And that, the late restart and the contact racing for the win that sent Sebastian Bourdais through from third into victory lane. After this short break, NBA Countdown presented by Straight Talk Wireless. So long from St. Pete. Bourdais the winner.